Hello, welcome. I'm Amaresh Tripathy. I run the data and AI business for Genpact. And today I'm delighted to host Kiran Vankamamidi, who is the CIO of the Driscoll's company. We are very fortunate that Enquiro, which is part of our broader Genpact family, has been helping Kiran and Driscoll's on a very fascinating journey that he's here to come and talk to us about. So Kiran, one, welcome. And second, can you share a little bit about Driscoll's? I know we are all your consumers, but can you talk a little bit about what the company is about?
Driscoll's is a $5 billion multinational company, a global company. We sell in 26 countries and produce fruit in, I'm sorry, we produce fruit in 26 countries and sell in about 60 countries. Um, we are trying to sell what we call as berry patch, the four berry products: strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries. And what we aspire to do, and we are doing in many cases, is to be able to have these fruit available to all the consumers 12 months a year. So what we have to do is we have to plan very well when and where you produce this fruit so that our consumers can enjoy that fruit throughout the year.
So what are the one or two examples in your entire data journey? Like what would be the kind of couple of projects or initiatives that you have done? Can you just share a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the projects that we are trying to do, which will help our overall data journey, is the track and trace, right? So as a fruit is, and this is only um, what I call that the whole data journey as a moonshot project for us, because there are multiple parties involved in this whole journey, right? So we
Right.
have independent growers who are actually growing Driscoll's varieties. So how each of the growers, they have mastered their own ways of producing the fruit, and at the end of the journey, we actually hand over the fruit to our customers, Costco, and they redistribute the product to their own retail stores, right? So it's a moonshot project for us because we have to need a thread this needle from the time we actually give the plants to the growers to all the way what happens to the consumer. So what we're trying to do is um, how do you solve a moonshot problem is by first figuring out what is the escape velocity to get off the earth, right? So the first thing is we are trying to make sure that we knit all the data that we have internally. Um, so what we've been doing is from the time we get the fruit to the time we deliver the fruit to our customers, we're making sure that we push all of this data into one of our data lakes, make sure that all the data that is coming from our internal systems was plus some of the external sources is tied in, and then we try to create insights from the data that we have, um, and try to create that information and that can be used to increase more delight for our product.
And you also shared a very interesting quality use case, which used like AI/ML, which was like a very unexpected use of like AI/ML. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
it is a use case for quality. What we are trying to do is we started off by using if you can imagine a copier kind of a machine. In the past, what would happen is as the fruit comes in, we take two clamshells, dump it on a desk, and look at the fruit and say how many green fruit are there, how much dirt is on the fruit, is it small, is it big, and we also squeeze the fruit out and measure the bricks, is what we call it, the content of sugar in the fruit. And based on all of these attributes, we collect a score for that. We give them a quality score. So that was actually very, so you're destroying the fruit, you're disturbing many of the things. So what we've done is we have gotten a machine, like a copier, where you dump the fruit on the machine will take picture of the fruit from all four directions, and it by using machine learning, it automatically determines what is the quality of fruit. In the past, there
Wow.
was some bias by the person, but now that bias is being taken away, and we are not able to produce proof of why we gave a particular quality score with the pictures attached to the grower back to them, right? So this is a great insight
Interesting.
for them to say, hey, here are some of the important things that they could do to improve harvest less green fruit, make sure that there is no dirt. So those are all the things that we are giving back.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. So it seems like not only are you making your own company data driven, your growers, the entire ecosystem, your growers, your customers, and for probably even your consumers, eventually you're trying to kind of bring a almost like data driven ecosystem you're trying to create well beyond the boundaries of your
It
own
has to be, right.
company.
We that's why we called it an enterprise. As part of our business,
Yes.
we will have to look in such a way that it's not just Driscoll's making money, but we have to make sure that the entire ecosystem is making money. So,
That's lovely.
and
What
how do
about
we make sure that the whole enterprise is profitable is through data. Whatever insights that we can give to our growers or to our customers, or gain insights from our customers or growers, we will take them. One of our mission values is humility, so we continue to learn from everybody around us.
Wow. Wow. So one thing, I mean, like very in a very practical sense, I mean, listen, you guys are on an amazing mission, and I think what you are 2.5 years into this journey that you have shared. So a lot of your peers who are probably listening to this, one of the things they struggle with is how do you actually make a case, and how do you make a case, and how do you sequence these initiatives, because these things are all expensive. What you just talked about. So how did you go about doing
Yeah,
that?
you need to have business partners who are very savvy or about data, right? So you start with top down. What are the insights that your business partners are trying to get out of the data that they are actually collecting? You start there, and you don't
Hmm.
want to boil the whole ocean. You want to, like I was saying, when you start thinking the big picture, it seems almost insurmountable for us, right? So
Yes.
that's when it becomes a
Exactly.
moonshot. And so what we need to do is break it up. Even though the top leadership understands what is the final mission, for us it is delighting our consumers, right? So what are the elements that are most important to delight our consumers, and then break it into smaller chunks and take one piece at a time.
So Kiran, there's a lot of your peers who would be interested in a journey like this, and they will probably actually die to kind of get on a journey like this. So what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, two things, Amaresh. One is, don't walk into different business partners' offices and say you're going to implement this huge BI platform, right? So that doesn't resonate with people, and that's why many of the BI implementations would not be funded, right? Because they don't know what you're talking about. Ask what is the problem that they could be solving, and what insights would help them solve those problems, right? So so start with the business problem that you're trying to solve, and then apply the data solutions for that. Then start there. So it would feel like it is actually a meaningful problem that you're solving for the business, and that's how the projects get funded. And then always try to make sure that this is connected into the bigger picture. In our case, it's delighting our consumers, right? And then second, I would say is stay humble, because this is such a big problem, and I'm so glad that this company that I'm working for actually puts it as a value, in its humility is part of our values. Not only do we actually pick up from our growers or our customers, we also learn from our competitors and where they are successful and how they can help us actually. If there is a problem that is already solved in the industry, there is no better compliment that you could give to your competitor that we are actually copying that from you, right? So not what exactly they did, but how they went about solving that problem, right? So we are very humble in that way. Is we're very open to learning from people, not only our partners, customers, and consumers and competitors as well. So those two things, I hold those values very near and dear. Don't try to solve the and don't boil the ocean. and then keep your learning hat on all the time, because these two attributes have to be there for a data journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, Kiran, this is, I mean, it's just because everyone who's listening to this can relate to the product.
Yeah.
And everyone is a consumer of the product. And the complexity and the data journey behind that is just fascinating. So thank you so much for coming and educating us. And I know this is a journey, it's an unfinished journey, and you're still continuing on that. So good luck on the rest of it. And we'd love to kind of come back and talk more and learn from this experience, because I think a lot of your peers would find it super fascinating. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Being data-driven is one of those goals that many organizations are still walking towards. Now, I am joined by a fantastic panel to dive into it a little bit deeper. Now, before we get into the content of today's discussion, I think a round of introductions is well worth doing. Alex, I wonder if you would mind giving us an intro.
Sure. Thank you, Kiran. My pleasure to be here. My name is Alex Lazarevich. I'm a VP of Analytics at HelloFresh. I joined the company 2 months ago, and I'm still learning a lot. And for those who are not familiar, HelloFresh is #1 meal kit provider in the world. And we are trying to actually reshape the business, reshape the company using the data and analytics.
Amazing. Alex, thank you for joining, and congratulations on your new role. And I know your previous role will very much influence the conversation that you have today as well. So I'm excited to pull the thread on both experiences there from you.
Absolutely.
Morgan, welcome to the panel. If you wouldn't mind giving us an intro.
Thank you, Ken. I'm really pleased to be here. I'm Morgan Templer. I'm the Vice President of Information Management at Highmark Health Systems. We are a interconnected system of hospitals, healthcare, payer, integrated into a single experience, delivering a world where everyone embraces health.
Amazing. Thank you, Morgan. And Dan, if you wouldn't mind giving us an intro.
Hi, my name is Dan Power. I'm the head of data governance for a business unit at State Street Bank, namely Global Markets, which is where our capital markets and foreign exchange trading activities are located. I've been doing this job for about 5 years, have been in the data and analytics space my whole life, and I'm glad to be here today.
And we're glad to have you, Dan. Thank you so much. Amaresh, great to see you again. Obviously, you joined us in part 1, so we're glad to grab you back for this panel discussion. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Catherine. I'm Amaresh Tripathy. I run the data and analytics and AI business at Genpact, which is one of the large professional services firm. It's with a fairly presence across 30 countries. So glad to be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then last but certainly not least, Deepak, if you could give us an intro, please.
Wonderful. Good to be part of this discussion. If I were in person, I would have started by giving all of you some M&Ms and Snickers to begin with. I'm Deepak Jose. I am the lead for data and analytics in the demand space for Marsh Wrigley. I've been with the organization at this point for 3+ years. I run a team of data scientists, data engineers, product owners, and business translators who help in solving the toughest and biggest business problems for Mars as an organization, leveraging AI, machine learning, etc. Good to be here.
Confirmed, Deepak for in person for M&M. Anyway, it's great to have you all here. And I mean, I love how diverse this panel is, from the industries, from the perspectives, from the job roles as well, because I think this is going to give a really interesting flavor to the discussion that we're having here today. Now, I have made the joke across several sessions and episodes here at the Business of Data Festival that if I was to ask the audience, or even individually yourselves, to write a definition of something, we're going to come up with very diverse answers based on our organizations, based on our experiences, based on our education of how we've been brought up into the data analytics community. So I think it's best if we start out by setting the scene of what does it actually mean to be data-driven? What does data-driven business transformation mean to you? And let's go back the other way around. Deepak, I wonder if you'll unpick that for me.
So that's a great question. The data-driven business business transformation has evolved. The idea has evolved over a period of time. When we started almost a decade back, several organizations had a data-first approach. What essentially it was, any organization would spend a lot of time in building a huge data foundation to generate some knowledge and insights. And using that knowledge and insight, they would take some action and which will create some value. At Marsh Wrigley, we have a value-led approach. So what does a value-led approach mean? We generally say it is business problem first and data second. What does that mean? We have to identify what are the key business problems and what is the key value proposition we are going after. Starting with that value, we can then subsequently identify what are the key actions that we need to take. For taking those actions, what are the knowledge and insights that you need? And for those knowledge and insights, what is the data we need to have? With this approach, we were able to change from a data lake-led approach to a business problem plus value-led approach. That has significantly transformed the way the business has started looking at our data analytics function. We have been able to move from a cost center mindset to a profit center mindset.
Amazing journey there. And I think that's going to be a theme that we see across the panel. Now, Amaresh, obviously you've just jumped off at the back of a conversation with Kiran there at Driscoll, which, I mean, you couldn't get a better example of data-driven business transformation for sure. But I wonder, from your experience, from the members of the community that you speak to regularly, what's the kind of definition that you'd give to data-driven business transformation?
Yeah, I think they are great. I mean, and Deepak did a great definition too. The way we at least think about it is there's a fundamental belief that better decisions will be made if you are able to use a variety of data in an appropriate manner. And fundamentally, machines are better at some aspects of that entire data, using data to kind of drive decision cycle, and human judgment and expertise will always remain like very relevant in that cycle. So how do you actually orchestrate what machines are good at and what humans are good at in the right proportion to make better decisions that will lead to hopefully better outcomes, because there's other things that happen between decisions and outcomes. So that's essentially fundamentally what we believe by data-driven transformation is how do you actually orchestrate that?
Amazing. Thank you, Amaresh. Dan, when it comes to data-driven business transformation, obviously this is something that you and I have spoken extensively about, especially in our weekly clubhouse rooms. I wonder if you could extend it into why it's really important to you and your business function and in what you do day to day.
It's a good question. I usually talk about 5 business drivers, and the first few are pretty obvious. It's increase revenue, become more efficient, reduce costs. And because we're in the financial services industry, compliance and regulatory concerns are very prevalent. So those 3 are easy; they're obvious. The second pair, the last 2, are timeliness, being able to reduce time to market. And in that area, being data driven, a lot of it means well, do we have data or not? If you have no data, then it's very tough to be data driven. Or if someone says, well, we can get that data, but it's going to take us a month. Well, that's not going to be fast enough. We have to make this decision like today. And the final one is the quality of the decision making. And I firmly believe that you make better decisions if you have better data. So for me, it's really those last 2. It's timeliness and quality of decision making.
100%, and some very difficult things sometimes as well to get exactly right. And as you say, you certainly don't want to be waiting on queries for any length of time other than the here and now to answer those pertinent questions. Thank you, Dan. Morgan, you've heard 3 answers there. What can you add to it?
Well, I would agree with all of those, and I would say yes. And within the healthcare space, we're really trying to reinvent the way healthcare is engaged, how the person, the individual, is part of their own healthcare journey, and they are able to make their own healthcare decisions So having that data-driven component takes us from getting lost in, here's a great idea, ooh, this would be innovative, why don't we try this? And all of those different things that we look at as we're trying to make the experience better and actually say, is there data to support that? Can we pull the data stream end to end through all of those ideas to actually create some kind of seamless, cohesive experience? And so it's actually kind of, in some ways, it's our check against our innovation. Not that we don't want to be innovative, but that we can make sure that our innovations are grounded and based off of things that we can actually instantiate in the market.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Morgan. Now, Alex, I appreciate you've got the end of the straw here by going last. So I'll ask you for your thoughts on this, but don't worry, I'll come to you first for the next question.
Okay, no problem. So it's hard to basically say anything new, but actually, in my opinion, data-driven transformation, business transformation is really creating the value and impact for the organization using the data. I think this is really simple, but actually how to do this is really, really, really challenging. And many people actually address this, but the really key elements are really how to create the proper data elements, how to create the proper data management, data governance, data catalog, because allowing the access to everyone will really drive the usage of data across the company. However, you're not really focusing only on the data, you are also focusing on the business aspects. How to make sure that people are effectively using the data, they're going from data to information to insights and finally recommendation. This is the key, really, how you can create that value and the impact for the whole organization. That's, in my opinion, this kind of transformation is going basically from the raw data that probably many organizations are sitting right now, but how they can effectively leverage that information to further improve the business decisions.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting you bring out those core steps, because I think depending on your organization, those could be 20 steps, 5 steps, 100 steps, and
Absolutely.
how many people then get involved with that as well. So varying complexity for sure. Now, I did promise I'd stay with you for my next question, which is, how are you currently using analytics and cloud to deliver value to your employees and your customers as well? And I would be keen to pull, as I mentioned at the start there, pull both threads of your current industry and then your previous one just 2 months ago as well.
Sure. So I joined actually HelloFresh from Stanley Black & Decker. Stanley Black & Decker, we really have a lot of applications in actually using analytics. I can start a little bit with Stanley Black & Decker and I can move how we use it HelloFresh. For those people who are not familiar with Stanley Black & Decker, in addition to the tools that we offer to many customers, we actually offer security, healthcare, robotics, we have oil and gas pipeline, we actually have outdoor equipment. So it's a really quite range of products and services we offer to our customers. So some of the key analytics use cases or product areas that we are focusing on included like sales and marketing, especially on the pricing aspects, how to run effective promotions and stuff like that. Also, overall customer experience, customer engagement, what customers like about our products, what they dislike. The big area for us was around operations, how to do proper demand coming from our retail stores, because we were traditionally B2B industry. We try to sell through retail stores, so it's even more complicated to predict this demand coming from the retail stores. And finally, in the whole area is like a procurement, when we try to understand our suppliers, actually, how we getting the most efficient supplies, how we getting the best price, and so on. Recently, we also started to do a lot of work in people analytics, actually, to understand where people will live, what we can do about this, and actually how we can create the most efficient organizational networks within the company. HelloFresh, conceptually very similar to Stanley Black & Decker, because you're also dealing with a lot of suppliers, a lot of customers, a lot of demand forecasting. But for us, I would say that understanding customers is really key for us. Trying to understand customer basically acquisition, which customers we need to basically attract, trying to understand why customers cancel our subscription, what they like from the perspective of our recipes, what our meals, and also the overall customer experience. In my opinion, this is really the key for successful company, trying to improve that overall customer journey from the moment they order the meal on the website to the moment they open the box and see the surprise there, while they cook the meal, and also finally when they enjoy that meal with the company. I think this is really, in my opinion, key that we need to understand. I don't think we are there yet, but we are trying to improve that overall customer journey in order to make us fully successful. And finally, on the operation side, we're also dealing with a lot of demand forecasting, how to track certain suppliers, how to actually improve that overall supplier experience, and also trying to understand better on ingredients quality, which ingredients are more perishable, which are less, and how to provide better freshness to our customers. Sorry, I was talking a lot, but I was trying to capture two companies instead of one.
Really, really great response as well. And I think, I've mentioned it here before. Previously, I have worked on customer experience and customer success events, and obviously in the data analytics world. And it's so interesting to me how these worlds are just absolutely one now, and they're not kind of two communities, they're absolutely one, with what you were saying there, Alex, about improving that overall customer experience and being able to then recreate that, right? And take that data and put it back in and learn from it as well. So we're going to take a left now and go to a very different industry, perhaps. Morgan, in the healthcare sector, what are you doing in analytics and cloud to deliver that value for your employees, customers, and patients?
We've used cloud for quite a while in a multi-cloud type environment, and we've certainly found cost savings, I would say, by utilizing software as a service, in the cloud. But as we're starting our new journey and rebuilding this entirely new perspective on how do we even deliver the care to our members and to our patients, we're taking everything into the cloud intentionally so that we have more dynamic and easier access to the data across platforms. We've always done virtualization. I won't say always. For the last few years, we've done virtualization, but it's really challenging to do on an on-prem system or a collection of on-premise systems that have different data models and different data glossaries, data dictionaries, and the classifications don't align. So pulling it into a virtualized perspective up in the cloud, it doesn't mean that we're just building a giant data lake. We have many different things that will be in the cloud, but having a virtualization layer allows the analytics teams to really go in and focus in on sets of data from various parts of the care continuum to bring together a holistic recommendation of what care that particular member or patient might need. And so using analytics in the cloud really for us has just simplified things and opened up doors that we had close to us before.
And I mean, that's exactly what you want to hear, right? That's the sorts of use cases that are incredibly powerful for everyone listening to learn from. So thank you, Morgan. Deepak, in your experience, what are you up to with analytics in the cloud?
So I want to talk broadly about what are the areas in analytics that I am specifically focusing, and subsequently the two broad approaches within Marsh Wrigley. There are several growth and operational efficiency areas which my team is focusing on across various lines items of the P&L. So starting with revenue growth management, so which is pricing, strategic promotion, etc. The route to market, how can we make the field sales teams more impactful? Which are the stores they should visit? What is the frequency of their visit? How much time they should be spending and what kind of activities? Like any CPG companies, how should we spend our marketing dollars? It can be the media, shopper marketing, consumer promotion, etc. What is the right portfolio we should be selling to our consumers? And the other aspect is what is the right kind of innovation pipeline? Now, in the recent days, something which is accelerating for any manufacturer is our e-commerce or omni-channel presence. It can be like pure play like Amazon, Alibaba, or brick and clicks like Walmart, Carrefour, or Instacart, etc. on the on-demand delivery segment. That is another important area growing up as well. Now, in addition to all this that I've just talked about, we are building out a new team called the Connected Insights team. So that is the cross-functional team, which is trying to answer the questions which are cross-functional. So for example, if you have one additional dollar to invest, where would you put it? Would you put it in sales, which is in trade promotion, or would you put it in marketing, media, shopper CP, or in e-commerce? So to answer such questions, the cross-functional collaboration needs to be significantly higher, and we need to operate on single source of truth with a connected insights in mind. So that is something which we are actively working on with a lot of value creation opportunity. And my closing comment, an organization like Marsh, we are really good in doing descriptive and diagnostic analytics, which is telling what happened in the past and why it happened. And we are focusing a significant amount of our efforts on predictive and prescriptive. What is going to happen and what are the actions we should take?
Amazing. Deepak, thank you so much. You covered so very much in that answer. Thank you. Amaresh, from the people that you chat to day in, day out, what are you seeing in terms of that analytics cloud and delivering value to employees and customers?
Yeah, I see like basically three broad trends, and this is kind of what we covered in one of the research that we did with Corinium too. Number one is cloud is becoming the standard in the data. Like that's the standard infrastructure for data and analytics. That's kind of just full stop, right? Having said that, everyone has been a very different. I mean, actually, everyone is pretty much early in the journey. I mean, like if you go and look at the whole potential of it, right? It's like a lot of it is like still moving data into the cloud and kind of creating unified data stores and things like that. So that's kind of one thing. It's kind of it's I think it's a dominant architecture and it becomes standard. Second is it also is the driver for fundamentally kind of what Deepak and Morgan were talking about and Alex was talking about, which is the value part of it. And the value part of it, fundamentally, I think it is the means to make AI real in the enterprise, right? And that's I think is like the predictive prescriptive discussions that we just had. Same thing. I think that's the thing. But so it's going to be an inflection point around where the organizations are. And I think the third part, which is actually which is kind of a little bit of a surprising to what we see, is well, in some ways, cloud is more centralized. In terms of kind of from the asset perspective, but it actually is enabling a fundamental, like almost federation of analytics within an organization. It actually is enabling different functions, business units, to be actually more data-driven in a more federated way rather than a centralized way, even though the technology itself is a lot more centralized. And that's actually those three things is probably we see it all the time and some great use cases that I think that these amazing folks have kind of already shared.
Amazing, thank you, Amaresh. And then last but certainly not least, Dan, what are your thoughts here on that value to your employee and customer via the cloud and analytics?
Well, let me take the cloud piece first. I saw an article over the weekend that said, a lot of firms in the financial industry that invested in private cloud are shutting down those investments and moving strictly to the public cloud. It's just much more cost effective, and it's tough to run that infrastructure if you're primarily a financial firm. It's hard to compete with Amazon or Microsoft. Secondly, I think it does promote more value. It's less expensive and it's faster. You can have, built into the services, more updates more frequently and take advantage of that. Whereas if you had to stage and apply those patches and updates yourself to your infrastructure because it's your infrastructure, it's a lot more work and it will slow you down. We have an explicit strategy of being cloud agnostic. In fact, it came up today in a town hall with our CEO. The IT person who asked the question said, wouldn't it be easier and eliminate redundancy if we focused on a single cloud partner? And the person actually had a recommendation. And the CEO's answer was, well, I'm not a techie, but we like the idea of being cloud agnostic so that we can meet our customers where they want to be met. So as we develop more financial technology, and we have, Charles River Development and State Street Alpha, and we have, other offerings that we're working on to be disruptive in the fintech space. If a client says, hey, I want to be on Azure, or I want to be on AWS, or, maybe eventually Google, we're going to say yes. We're not going to say, well, we'd like to sell you this, but we're not on that cloud. No, of course we're going to say yes. So it means a little bit more work, but it also gives you more flexibility. If there's a big outage, we want to be able to flip from one to the other very quickly. Where there are security concerns, I just think the more capability you develop internally, as far as the external cloud technology providers, things will have to be somewhat redundant, but I think a lot more things are going to be in common. Hopefully you'll purchase management tools and data governance platforms and everything else that works equally well with whatever cloud provider you want.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Dan. Now, time is rapidly running away from us here, so I'm going to ask that each of you try and keep your answers as concise as possible, because I want to come to each of you for this one, because it's a big one, and I appreciate that's going to be hard to do in a concise way, which is, what impact have you personally seen with having culture and data literacy as part of your data-driven transformation? So what impact does that company culture and data literacy have on your transformation? Amaresh, I wonder, what have you seen?
So we actually run a big data literacy program internally for 100,000 folks. And that's called Data Bridge, and there's some amazing things we have learned. The biggest thing that we have seen is how employees get excited about it, how employees fundamentally want to do the right thing, and our employees get excited about it, and they are learning, our clients learn, and our clients get a benefit, and we benefit. So that virtuous cycle is the best part about data literacy.
Amazing. I absolutely love that, Amaresh. I always love it when people get excited over data, mainly because it's my job to make sure people are excited over data, but I love it. Thank you. Deepak, how about yourself when it comes to how much of an impact you have personally seen company culture and data literacy have on your transformation?
So, matter of fact, the most important aspect of analytics team success is the ability to influence the culture of the organization and the ability to train and upskill the team. For us, it has been quite impactful. We have training programs to specific personas, not only for the advanced analytics teams who are the data scientists, data engineers at a technical guild level. We are also building training programs for product owners. That is one group. For the senior leaders. A combination of all of these things have helped us significantly to influence the culture. Now, my strong belief is that it always starts from the top. If the leaders ask data-driven questions, the associates are going to give you data-driven answers. So the role of leadership plays a significant role in driving this culture.
Amazing, Deepak. Yes, you read my mind. And we're not going to get a chance to ask that question on this forum, but it was certainly one that I had lined up, was asking about that executive importance. So thank you for touching on it. Morgan, how about yourself? What impact have you seen personally?
So culture has a really important component of data. The topic of data literacy is a little bit interesting. Healthcare professionals tend to rely on data. I guess they would say more information, which is data plus context. And so they're thinking, I use information every day. When you tell me I need data literacy, you're telling me that I might be illiterate in something. And because we have a very educated workforce, that kind of comes across wrong. So we have to be very careful when we think about it. Having people understand data and information being different and how they use those two things in a different way is a really big part of the education that we provide to our teams so that they can continue to grow in their skills. So a lot of it, when we say culture, you heard the culture in my language, because it's language and words matter. But by bringing people together, by using the right language, we can really actually help them understand how important it is that they're using the data in addition to the information.
I love it. And that's why I love bringing people from all sorts of industries together, because it just shows how diverse the challenges can be for each of us, but then some of the similarities as well. Alex, what about the impact you have seen with culture and literacy on your transformation?
So like a few other people mentioned, we also had a program for data literacy for increasing that kind of analytic awareness. So in addition to excitement that was mentioned before, that people are really excited to use analytics, what I would say the another difference was also that kind of engagement and commitment. When you are a part of analytics organization and you're working closely with the business partners, they really need to understand how analytics can help them. And that could help that engagement and committed. If you don't have engaged and committed partner, you will not be able to achieve much. So in my opinion, basically two aspects: excitement, that many people would like to touch data, they love to play with data, but also that kind of engagement and commitment on the business side, that they will actually work with the data science team or analytics organizations to actually deliver the value across the whole company. And we will never be able to forget that 70% of most of transformation is still depending on the business processes, people interaction, not just technology. So this is something we really need to actually keep in mind all the time.
I love that, Alex. Thank you so much. And then Dan, your thoughts on the impact you've seen in culture and literacy, if you please.
Sure. We have a internal network called the Numerits Network, which is basically it's data literacy. It's for data scientists and aspiring people to get together and learn My team has always been very involved in that since that first began a few years ago. We have one person right now who's on the board, and that whole data literacy that we call numeracy, which is similar to literacy, but we want people to be comfortable with different tools, different approaches. The kind of waterfall software development model and Microsoft Excel, those are kind of from a previous era. And we now have many different BI platforms and AI platforms and data pipelines and data quality tools and so on. So it's about awareness and education, and also just sometimes letting them know what's possible. If someone has been in the industry for 30 years, they're not thinking about data. They're thinking about results and, typically revenue and profitability. But if you can show them, hey, there's an AI model that will do a better job predicting this or identifying the customer who's likely to churn or whatever the question might be. And, the business does come with those questions. So we're experiencing much more of a pull model where we're being pulled into situations by the business where they have questions. And then we help them find the appropriate tool or data or whatever it might be that's required to solve their problem. And a lot of times those are multidisciplinary, but it's great to see them asking the questions that, now they know roughly what's possible, and we're getting pulled into more and more situations where data is part of the answer.
Amazing. And just like that, unfortunately, we are out of time. But thank you for each of you giving your thoughts today. It's been such an interesting experience for me. And I'm sure you've given the exact same value, if not more, to the audience as well. Now, if you are watching us during the Business of Data Festival and you've enjoyed this conversation, then why not dive a little bit deeper by downloading the report that we have been discussing here today. The topics and questions that we have been asking have been very much pulled from that report. So if you head into the resource area, you will be able to download that. Now, if you are in fact watching us on demand, then do head over to the Business of Data platform where that report will be living under our long read sections. Just find the State of Data-Driven Business Transformation report and you can download it for free there. But thank you, each of you, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everybody.